Hi everybody, this is Noelle with Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our Oakwood Village store, and we are going to talk about Portulaca today and do a spotlight in Portulaca. So we're going to concentrate specifically on this plant, tell you everything you need to know about growing it successfully, and you're going to say, fans of Portulaca are going to say, "Psh, that's really easy," and you're right. And so we want to talk about Portulaca as a really good option, low maintenance option for somebody that's looking for an annual plant that grows really, really well for us in Northeast Ohio and really needs full sun conditions. Okay, so let's start out with the spotlight. I want to tell you a little bit about this flowering Portulaca family. Of course, it is an annual. Portulaca, the Latin name, or I should say Latin word Portulaca. Yeah, I think that's right. Means tiny door or little door, and it refers to their seed pods. So after these varieties go ahead and bloom, they might produce a little capsule, and that little capsule holds a bunch of little seeds, but it has a little door or a little hinged top on it. So that's what that name refers to. So that's really cool. They're in the purslane family. Purslanes, oh my gosh, there's 150 or so species out there. So there's a lot of them. And actually, if you're familiar with some weeds, there is a common weed that grows in Northeast Ohio, and it is called purslane. So again, this family is very, very, very broad. Okay, as we're looking at this again, this is an annual. When I was doing my research, I did find that hardiness zones can vary anywhere from 6A to 10B. But for me, I've never had Portulaca return in the garden. So just be aware of that. I don't want anybody to be disappointed, but I just want you to be aware that you might have some come back, maybe. I've just never really seen that happen. We grow Portulaca in full sun conditions. This is a plant that takes the sun, the heat. They actually tolerate very dry soils. So do be aware of that when you're growing that. So again, sun as far as 6 or more hours of direct sunlight is perfect for them. They love those hot sunny areas, okay? In the landscape or in containers. They do really, really well. We don't start seeing them in the garden until our summer weather starts to heat up. So again, when we get into the heat of June and the humidity of June, that's when these really start to look awesome out there, okay? And it kind of goes along with some of their companion plants, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. But it's kind of the same thing we say about flowering vinca or catharanthus. They really need some heat in order to really fill out and do well. They do not want to be cool. They do not want to be cold. They don't want wet soil. Cold, wet soil is the worst, okay? So it's the same thing for Portulaca. So let's talk about soil really quick. Again, well-drained soils, really on the drier side is what they're looking for, and poor soils too. So if it's an area that you rarely get out to, you rarely put organic matter into it and work on that soil, this is actually a good plant for that. So just be aware of that, that they do appreciate that. What else should I tell you about them? Again, watering wise, if you're growing them in a container, watch your watering. Again, I would let the soil dry out somewhat before you thoroughly water again. So be aware of that in your hanging baskets. You really don't want these to be overly wet or too moist. That is a bad thing. Portulaca have very shallow roots, and so they can suffer root rot very, very quickly if you keep that soil too moist for them, okay? So be aware of that. Out in the landscape, again, drier areas, down by the mailbox, in a rock garden, that's where they do the best. Kind of trailing over a retaining wall or a garden edge, you know, that you have rocks and stones and what have you. Perfect place for them, okay? Where they're getting that really good drainage. That's what they want. As far as fertilization is concerned, they are not heavy feeders at all. Okay. So if you feed them with plant tone when you plant them for the season, that's usually good. Or Osmocote, use the green cap Osmocote and plant them. You'll be ready to go. And then maybe within 2 to 3 months, you can reapply and they'll be fine. Okay. So not heavy feeders, very, very low maintenance. Here's the thing about maintenance with these is they kind of push off the old and bring on the new. Sometimes you'll find that if it rains or if it's overhead irrigated, you'll find that they'll get a little bit sticky and kind of stay on top of the plant. But every once in a while, if you can go through and just kind of pick off those old flowers, that really helps, of course, keep the plant look more tidy, but again, will keep them as far as putting more energy back into the center of the plant and filling out. If the trailing stems get a little leggy and start to kind of look kind of long and thin, it is no problem to give them a haircut. And we talk about removing about 1/3 of the growth all the way around the hanging basket. It'll make this plant branch and do what it's supposed to do for you and continue to bloom and fill out. Okay. So these plants are just so easy. Let's talk about attributes again. I mentioned how wonderful they are for summer annuals. They really do like heat, humidity, dry areas, sun, drought areas. So again, if we have a very hot summer with little rainfall, this plant will be so happy and you'll be happy that you grew it. The other thing is they do attract pollinators. These bright colors are very, very attractive to them. They do have pollen in the center of their flowers that you can see. It's very visible. So again, that's going to be attractive to your bees and your butterflies. Typically, there's no tubular growth here that the hummingbirds could come in and get nectar. The bright colors or maybe even the orange colors certainly could attract hummingbirds to an area. But again, not necessarily flowering parts that are going to help the hummingbirds with nectar. So bees and butterflies for sure. This flower is basically a single flower. It does have these beautiful petals, and I'm going to pull this off. They are heart-shaped, so you can see kind of the dip in the top of it, and then it will move down. So they are very attractive. Lots of times the flowers can be, this is almost single. There are usually 5 petals to the Portulaca flower, and sometimes you'll see that they're semi-doubled like this one. So you'll see obviously more than 5 flowers all the way around. It's almost like 2 tiers underneath. Another thing to note about Portulaca flowers, which many of you may already know about, is they close at night. They also close on very cloudy days. The reason that they do that, and that actual process, that physiological process, is called nyctinasty. I know it sounds very strange, but why they do that is not only to kind of conserve moisture and keep their internal heat and all those types of things too, but it's to protect their pollen and their reproductive parts from different types of bad insects out there too, and also animals and things. So it is a kind of cool biological function. And so keep that in mind when you grow Portulaca and you don't have sunny days and you wonder, why aren't they blooming? It's nyctinasty that's happening. You will also see Portulaca. This one in front is called Happy Hour Portulaca. Happy Hour Portulaca or Moss Rose is a great common name. Sometimes we'll hear that too. They have more needle-like foliage. It is typically medium green, glabrous, which means that it is smooth, very smooth, and very succulent. So again, this leads this plant to really doing well in those hot areas in the garden and drier areas in the garden. And they plant so well with other succulents. So if you're interested in the sedum family or stonecrop family, this is a great annual to go along with them. If you like Delosperma, Delosperma is a great perennial ground cover. They're sort of very similar to Delosperma in a way. You could grow them with more heat tolerant plants, marigolds, zinnias, dusty millers. We have a really cool plant called Livingstone Daisy Mizu, if you've ever heard of that before. So that's really fun. And again, more of a succulent plant out there. So again, there's lots of different plants that you can go with. Scavola. Scavola would be a good companion plant for this too. So again, all of those play a part, and that all dictates is those plants really can take a lot of heat, a lot of humidity again, and do really well for us. Okay. Let's go over varieties again. This is Happy Hour Portulaca. And again, it has that really cool kind of needle-like leaf, short needle-like, and it kind of is in whorls, what we call whorls around the stem, where you'll see the leaves kind of have this circular pattern around the stem, which is very cool. All the buds will come to the top basically, and they'll just keep on blooming and blooming for you. That's always really nice. The rest of these varieties are going to be Mega Pizzazz. Mega Pizzazz is a really large flowering type. Typically, Portulaca flowers are about 1 inch wide in diameter, but the Mega Pizzazz get much larger, usually around 1.5 inch, maybe up to 2 inches with some of the varieties too. Also with Mega Pizzazz, they have this kind of thicker, more succulent leaf to it, right? So it's a little bit more like, I hate to say it, like that weedy purslane. You're gonna see a thicker leaf to it. And so therefore it is even more robust out there in the landscape and does really, really well for us. There's some beautiful colors, obviously the fuchsias, the golden yellows, but you'll see some like this that have a little bit of variegation. This one's gonna be tropical twist. And then I also have papaya twist in this hanging basket combination. So we'll have, again, your combo planters, hanging baskets, 8-inch color your garden. We still have some flats of portulaca left as well. So just be aware that this is a very, very easy plant to grow for us. Full sun conditions. Again, annual. And if you have ever had it come back for you, please let us know down below. But for us, true annual, great for summer heat, great for hot, dry conditions, rock gardens, bringing in the pollinators, and just being really easy to take care of in the landscape or containers. Enjoy.